Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. If you have a gardening question you'd like our host Fred Howard to answer, send him an email. The email address is fred@planttalkradio.com. Now for today's question. Now, I know that you wanted to get a little bit into a topic this morning about how fall is the perfect time for cleanup and for preparing things for next spring, and that can be a real key in the spring.
Well, it is, Mark. One, right now, the yellow jackets have, let's just say, quit swarming, at least in my yard. The mosquitoes are less apt to be pestering me, especially since I'm wearing long pants now, and so on. And it's a time when we don't have to rush as much. We get a good rain that let's just say, softens up the soil a little too much. We can wait an extra day or two because we're going into the cool season, the end of the growth season. Whereas in the spring, it's hustle, hustle, hustle to try to get things all done. So when you can get a lead on it, and I think I get tired of preaching, and you probably get tired of hearing it, but grasses are growing that is, permanent and perennial grasses, lawn grasses, are growing like crazy right now. This is their season. They're loving it. They're spreading out. I'm going to digress. When they took the sod off of the Ohio State Stadium field, people bought it by the square foot of the square yard because Woody stood on it. Well, that was true that year. The next year, the grass that was there was regeneration and less apt for Woody to have stood on it. And by the third year, probably it didn't even know Woody Hayes existed. So in any event, we have things that grow well in the fall. They send out runners, tillers, as far as shoots are concerned, that are running right below the surface. And then, of course, tree roots and shrubs and things are putting on some new roots. Now, not as fast as spring, but there is the growth that we want to manage, especially when it comes to trying to keep the flower beds and or shrub bases free of grasses that cause you to be on your hands and knees. So right now is a good time to get those cut. That's one of the excellent things to do. It's also a time now when we can, on the hydrangeas that have flowered late, and they will flower next year on new tissue, we could prune those right now. We would not be pruning the forsythia and the lilac. Now, if it's a case of having to manage the plant, you're not going to hurt the plant by pruning. You will, however, likely be cutting off a tremendous amount of their flowering capability for next year because the buds have already formed for those things. It's another time to be out there, and when you're pruning for other purposes and so on, carry a sharp saw, one of those little folders, so that you can cut off branches that are bigger than a half an inch and get them out of the plant. Many plants have not totally defoliated yet, and even if they have, you can usually tell the shrunken wood of a stem as opposed to the green or vital tissue. Get the dead out of them while you can, and then soil prep is a biggie for now.
Hey, thanks again for listening to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our other podcasts as well, the Plant of the Week podcast and the Plant Talk Radio podcast, all on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to sponsor a daily podcast, contact us at fred@planttalkradio.com. To find out more about Fred Howard and Plant Talk Radio, visit our website, planttalkradio.com.
Circle270media.com